Is it right for anyone to cast a person into an eternal slumber? Even judges can be biased in their decisions. The death penalty is a controversial topic that varies in each state. Some states choose to keep the death penalty, while others remove entirely the death penalty from their court sentences. The states that oppose the death penalty often question the morality of the sentence and whether or not it truly prevents others from committing the same crime in the future. Hello, my name is Janisha, and today I will be talking about why death penalties should not be offered anymore. Since we will be the future generation in charge, it is important to examine specific topics clearly and carefully before picking a side. Although committing to the death penalty can have justified reasons, there are more downsides to having death penalties as an option than good sides. Now that I briefly reviewed my speech's contents, let's get moving. So the first topic I'll be talking about is the death penalty on wrong people. Racial bias is a factor that influences the court even if they do not notice. Most people subconsciously have racial preferences and biases. According to the Gale Encyclopedia of American Law, Volume 2, 3rd edition, a study analyzed 245 convicts from 1976 to 1995 based on their race and their victims' race. The study concluded that less than 50% of the convicts were white, yet 84% of the victims were white. This information directly breaks the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment, stating something along the lines that no one, no matter the ethnicity, wealth, or other factors, can be denied protection under the laws of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Another study from the same source, led by Professor David C. Baldus from the University of Iowa College of Law in 1983. He studied the ethnicity of the victims in Georgia and found the convicts that murdered white people were 11 times more likely to receive the death sentence than killers who murdered black people. This information further proves that the jury does not carefully consider every factor before deciding. Racism can be displayed consciously and unconsciously, which is why the death of the accused should not be decided in the fate of humans. Also, the death penalty increases the crime rate rather than reduces it. The Gale Encyclopedia of American Law, Volume 2, 3rd edition, explains that the states that do not permit death penalties, otherwise known as capital punishment, have higher homicide rates than states that do not. A halt on capital punishment decided after the case Furman v. Georgia took place because the U.S. Supreme Court started to doubt if the death penalty was constitutional. 5 years later, the Supreme Court decided capital punishment to be unconstitutional in this specific case because it was cruel and unusual. Now that I have talked about how people are unfairly punished and how having the death penalty makes it dangerous for others to live in certain states, I will talk about the immorality of having the death penalty. So the first reason is because there is a lot of cruelty in enduring the death sentence. Because the U.S. tries to make the death sentences quick and painless, but the issues and controversies InfoBase about capital punishment states the scientific evidence before the court overwhelmingly indicates that the use of phenobarbital, a key drug used in lethal injections, is very likely to cause extreme pain and needless suffering during their executions. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia ruled in 2020. Pulmonary edema, which interferes with breathing, produces sensations of drowning and asphyxiation, resulting in extreme pain, terror, and panic. Eyewitnesses' account of executions using phenobarbital describes inmates repeatedly gasping for breath or showing other signs of respiratory distress. This quote dives deeper into the lethal injections form of capital punishment because receiving the injection is slow and painful rather than what the U.S. claims it to be. Also, there's a case of a man named Smith who was given the death penalty in the state of Alabama with nitrogen gas. According to the same source, witnesses saw Smith struggle as he was gassed for around 10 minutes, flailing everywhere in pain and taking heavy breaths until he passed away. Just imagine what happened sounds like torture. Other alternatives are worse than ending the convicts' lives. For example, solitary confinement is a worse punishment than death because the convict will be unable to go into the outside world and is practically stuck in a white cube 24/7. Also, there is no way of keeping track of time or what is happening in the outside world. Similarly, being sent into an insane asylum or prison without parole for life is worse than a death sentence because the criminals are unable to see the outside world or have the freedom to go anywhere they want. These methods are more of a psychological torture for the convicts than a physical torture, but there's nothing worse than suffering while waiting for the Grim Reaper to appear. Now that you understand why the death sentences is immoral, I will be talking about the high costs of capital punishment. First off, our tax money covers the death sentences. According to West's Encyclopedia of Law, Volume 2, 2nd edition, the text states that giving someone a death sentence costs 38% more money than a lifetime prison sentence. Also, Duke University analyzed the cost of death sentences in North Carolina from 1976 to 1992 and estimated the cost per execution to be $21.16 million, while in a different study in 1990 shows keeping a criminal in a maximum security prison for life costs a little more than $1 million. An example of the high cost of the death penalty can be found in Ted Bundy's case. Ted Bundy is a 42-year-old man who confessed to murdering 28 people in 4 different states. He had been waiting for his execution for 9 years, and his court order was delayed 3 times before he was sentenced to death by an electrocution chair. $5 million of tax money ended up being sent to Ted Bundy while he waited for his death sentence to happen and the equipment to put him down. The United States is already in $1 trillion of debt, and spending excessively is not a wise investment. Keeping death sentences will only increase the debt. Now that I've explained the significant costs difference between death sentences and lifetime prison sentences, I will conclude. Today I've enlightened you on the cons of the death sentences by explaining why it is biased, immoral, and incredibly expensive, as well as better solutions and alternatives to capital punishment. The next time a politician or election candidate brings up the death penalty, you should remember the downsides of the death penalty and from there decide whether or not you support the death penalty. Thank you.